Hi everybody, my name's Don Wass. What I'd like to do today is to talk to you about how to build 3D objects with Photoshop 5.0 using a flat grayscale image map like the one that you're looking at on my screen now. The most important part of this first step is that you start out with a layer that's approximately 50% gray, like you see in the background here. On my second layer, I added these black shapes that you see I copied and pasted across the screen. And on top of that layer, I added these white shapes. The key here is that anything that's darker than this gray surface will actually push back into the 3D mesh that you're going to make. And anything lighter than that gray surface will actually extrude or come forward in your mesh. This also has a Gaussian blur over the surface of it to just soften the edges a little bit so the object that we're going to create isn't so sharply defined. You want to make sure in your next step, you'll notice that this object has since been flattened. It was 3 layers, as I just described. That you load up your 3D workspace. That should bring up this panel that says Create New 3D Object. All you need to do now is to, with your layer selected, to make sure that you have a 3D mesh from Grayscale selected and that you pick the object that you want to wrap this Grayscale map onto. In this case, I'm using a sphere. All I need to do now is to hit the Create button and wait to see what happens. This shouldn't, oh, I got hit it a little harder. This shouldn't take that long. And you will see that I have my 3D object here on the screen. If your tools do not come up in the upper left-hand corner like they have here, you see that now I can manipulate this shape using these tools. I'm going to hit the K key. Right now I'm in the camera manipulation tool set, and you probably want to not be in that initially. Now that I have my 3D object on the screen, I can use all the Photoshop tools available to me to actually paint on this shape with brushes and all sorts of different surfaces. I think you'll find your students really enjoy this process and they can create some interesting shapes with this relatively simple technique. If I show you now some of these shapes that I've added a little more to, these were duplicated and pushed back into this uh, school facade that I have some affiliation with for a monumental piece of sculpture. Let me just show you a couple of others. This was actually done a little differently. This one has a bump map on the surface of these geometric shapes, and the shapes are forms that come with the software. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do another tutorial and talk to you a little more about what that process is like. Here's another one, um, another school that I'm affiliated with, building a monumental sculpture for their courtyard. You can see that we're still in the dead of winter here in Connecticut, but I think it sort of helped to make that fit in nicely to make it convincing and believable. I think your students will enjoy this process. It's really easy and they can do some amazing work with these simple tools. If you want to talk to me about it, I'll put my email up in the exchange and you can get back to me. Thanks a lot.